this TikTok?
Yeah.
Where's your... That's awesome filters, right? All right, let's see. I think everyone can see me. Okay, actually, I think we're live. We're live on YouTube. We are live on Instagram, and let's go live on TikTok. Okay, running late. Sorry, everybody. Sorry we're running late. I apologize. I don't know if you guys have been waiting or not, but we are live. We're going to spend about 20 minutes or so taking your questions and seeing what is on your mind. We have a lot going on in the Dr. Taz world, and I have a lot going on this weekend too. So I hope you guys all had an amazing weekend. As some of you know, I was in LA over the weekend, and I had a chance to talk to Goop. Basically, it was a Goop immersive event with Gwyneth Paltrow, and it was amazing. We got to talk about hormones and hormone shifts and many of the other conditions so many of you are experiencing as you navigate your medical visits and your doctor visits. Again, it's kind of the same story. I feel like a little bit of a broken record where people keep trying to get their hormones checked or told there are only certain days that their hormones can be checked, and we know that that's simply not true. You can actually have your hormones checked any time of the month. You just need to know how to interpret them. So really trying to change the message around hormones and hormone balance and hormone management seems to be just a long road ahead, to be 100% honest. Constantly get women or meet women anywhere around the world really frustrated with how this conversation is going. And I think the reason it's going the way it is because we have been taught to believe that once you go into menopause, you're kind of done, or that your hormones don't matter. They're irrelevant to many other aspects of your health. If you notice, I posted today on the hormone flu, and if you take a look at it, having hormone shifts creates all kinds of symptoms, including symptoms that we typically associate with the flu. So that sore throat, feeling stuffy, feeling achy, having joint pain. Rotator cuff is a common hormone symptom too, believe it or not. Knee pain, there's so many. TMJ. I mean, I could go on and on forever about all the different connections to hormone shifts and how we feel on a day-to-day basis. So much so that I actually have a book coming out that I am really excited about. It'll be coming out in October. It's called The Hormone Shift, and it really digs into what is happening to our hormones all throughout our hormone history. It's a lot like, we tell people not to smoke, right? We say, don't smoke, don't smoke, don't smoke. And we really drive that message in over and over again because we say, hey, if you're going to smoke, you might get lung cancer, right? So that message is out there. We spread it, we talk about it over and over again. Our kids know about it as well. But what we don't talk about are hormones. We never say check your hormones, because if you don't check them, it's really going to change how you feel. It's going to change the decisions that you make in your life. It's going to change even your relationships and the type of mom you are, or so many other roles that we play in our life. And for the guys listening, it's absolutely true for you guys as well. Understanding where your hormones are and what we need to be doing about them is super important. So the hormone shift will be coming out in October. I can't wait to share more of that with you. We've been working on that book for I think over a year now, and really excited to see that come to life and see that come to fruition. And hopefully it'll be an incredible resource. And it talks about hormone shifts that start as young as 13 and then take us all the way to 55, 60 and beyond, because we still have hormones throughout that range and we still need to understand how they are impacting our body. So enough about the hormone conversation. I can't wait to share that with you. Let me tell you about some other stuff that's going on in my world. And definitely, while I'm talking, if you guys have questions or there are things you want to make sure I address, please let me know. You can kind of post it in the comments or the kind of the scrolling below, and we'll jump in and hopefully answer any of your questions. And I know some of you had questions from my other posts. I'm going to try to get to some of those as well. For example, there were a lot of questions about bloating. Why do I think sparkling water causes bloating? We'll tackle that one in just a minute. Some questions about progesterone and progesterone therapy, and we can tackle that one as well. But one of the things that we're really excited to launch coming up is we're kind of reconstructing. A lot of you know about my Superwoman Circle. In fact, after we get done here, I'm going to lead right into doing our Superwoman Circle webinar, which is going to be on PCOS fertility, and insulin resistance. Super excited about that. Those three ideas seem unrelated, but they actually all go together. And here's the other catch with that. They don't, not only do they go together, but there's actually a perimenopause and menopause version of that. Meaning that the same patterns that you're seeing in your teens and 20s, and then as you try to get pregnant, replicate themselves as you go into perimenopause and menopause. So, for example, we have a lot of people that in their 20s were having an issue with insulin resistance, maybe having trouble getting pregnant, did the whole workup to get pregnant, maybe went on metformin, right, which is a drug that helps with insulin resistance, got pregnant, story was over, nothing was ever dealt with again. But then they go into menopause, and what we're seeing is that same insulin resistance comes back. And those are the patients that have such a tough time losing weight. They have the belly fat, they have all these different issues, and they're really tied back to the same chemistry, the chemistry that originally presented itself back when they were in their 20s and 30s. So the patterns and the chemistry, or the places that your body wants to go, is actually fairly consistent, but you have to do the work to dig in and to understand what's happening there. Otherwise, we don't get a clear picture of your hormones, and a lot of times you're given kind of blanket statements or blanket solutions that don't really work for you. So that's coming up in just a little bit. You still have time to join our community. There's a link in my bio. Just tap on that, and in that community, you'll have access to a lot of the content that I write, my podcast, my YouTube videos, and then of course we do the monthly webinar and Q&A in a group format, and that is a chance for you to meet some of the other people as well and learn from them, because ultimately we all learn really well from one another. All right, so that's happening, and then on top of that, we're about to launch our 4-hour hormone program. It's a 12-week program to really walk you through getting your hormones balanced, and I hope you guys are excited about that. You know, I really took some time to step back and think about, how am I going to combine this east-west approach to hormone balancing? What is the best way to do that? So I decided creating this 12-week program where we literally walk through every single step when we think from an Eastern and Western perspective on how to balance hormones. And that's for all age groups. Doesn't matter if you're 13 or if you're 55, that 4-hour hormone program is going to work to help you get your hormones back in balance. And we'll even talk about ways for you to check your hormones moving forward. So that's exciting to me too, because it takes a while, right? Sometimes these ideas are in your head and you don't really know how to translate them out, and sometimes it just sounds like gibberish to everyone around you, but it's super exciting when you can finally get the concept, put the pieces together, and then be able to impact and make a difference. So excited to launch that as well. And it will be a prelude definitely to the book coming out in October. All right, one more comment and then we'll start to take some questions. And I don't know if you guys saw the study that I posted about yesterday, talking about how women still do the majority of childcare and household work in the home, no matter how much they're earning. Even if they're earning as much as or more than their spouses, they in turn are having to really carry the brunt of that and carry the burden of that. So that seems to be a part of what is leaving so many women sick and burnt out, right? There's only so long you can keep juggling and staying up late to accomplish things and checking off lists, only to have 3 more new lists to start as well. All of that leads to what I've been calling for a long time now, right? Superwoman syndrome. I thought I had the book here, but Superwoman syndrome, which is really just this idea of burnout, where women get exhausted by having to be on and having to multitask over and over again and never really getting a break. And so one of the things we found in practice is that we keep going. As women, we keep going. We're doing all this stuff. We're trying to shine in our career, shine at home, be a perfect partner, be all these different things. But at some point, the body cannot keep up. And at that point, then we start to see the health fallout, right? So it's soft symptoms at first. Sometimes it's things like you're super tired, or you can't sleep at night, or for example, you're just irritable or grouchy, or all these different things. But that crescendos and it actually turns into disease. So things like inflammation set in, autoimmune diseases, a higher risk of cancer, mental health issues, all these things start to jump in at this point and really start to take its toll. So Superwoman syndrome can look different on different people, but it can look like hormone imbalances. It can definitely look like mental health issues. It can look like an autoimmune disease. It can look just like chronic fatigue, or even you just getting sick over and over again. These are all ways where Superwoman Syndrome can sneak in and really impact kind of what's going on with you and your body and your health. And ultimately, we want to shift and change that. We want to make a difference in that. And it absolutely does not have to be that way. Once you learn how to put the pieces of you back together, then we know that can make a difference in helping you really manage your life, set boundaries, set limits, and then be able to do the things you want to do. I was talking to someone this weekend when I was in LA, and they were saying that they finally learned, and I'm still working on this one, but they finally learned to shut the computer down over the weekend and just like be a girl for a change, right? Like cook or have fun or, have girlfriends over or do these things that even I often sacrifice, to be 100% honest, just to get things done or to accomplish things. So these are very real concerns or very real things that many of us are dealing with. And I would encourage you guys, join the Superwoman Circle. It'll help you understand how to take care of yourself. And it's a way for us as a community to come together and maybe call one another out when we are not taking care of ourselves well, or when we are making choices that don't lead us in the right direction, or we just need a quick food or beauty hack. So that is coming soon. So new things in the Superwoman Circle that I'm excited about: the 4-hour hormone program, the Hormone Shift book in October. Lots happening in my world, and so excited to share it with y'all. All right, we'll take some questions. Let's jump into that. I think we've got a few.
Okay, so our first question is, what is the hormone fixing formula? Is it exercise, creativity, correct nutrition? What do you advise?
Oh my gosh, what an intro. Is that from TikTok or Instagram?
This is from Instagram.
Instagram. Okay, Instagram question on what is the hormone fixing formula. All right, so if I had to, you want me to dial this down really quickly, I can see that. So I think it would be consistent sleep, exercise to relieve stress, and then understanding what you're doing with your diet and nutrition and gut health, because remember, the gut and liver are the foundation for hormone health for sure.
Awesome. And what about COPD? It seems to become one of the top killers like cancer and diabetes.
COPD is a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. I feel like it's gone on the rise, especially post-COVID, which has affected lung function for a lot of folks. So maybe that's the issue. COPD is on the rise, but it's not a number one killer. However, here's the Eastern medical perspective of this. The lung represents grief in Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. So if you're carrying around a lot of like grief or emotional baggage, we think the lungs are going to get heavy. In addition to that, the lungs are responsible for detoxing or for moving kind of chemicals through the body. So if we feel like you're not detoxing well, or you're inhaling a lot of environmental chemicals, then in turn we worry that your body is not able to do the work it's supposed to do, and in turn the lungs take a toll.
And another one from Instagram, is metformin safe, and how do we be insulin resistant without it?
Gotcha. So I'm about to do a lecture on insulin resistance in just a few minutes in the Superwoman Circle, and it is a much deeper topic, really hard to answer quickly. Let's talk about insulin resistance first of all. Insulin resistance is where you're walking around with higher than average numbers of blood sugar, your insulin levels are high as well, and all of that leads to accumulation of belly fat, which in turn is going to impact inflammation and so many other symptoms, right? So that is what insulin resistance is. Now, metformin is helpful for insulin resistance. The problem with metformin, it's a glucose lowering drug. The problem with it is that some people don't tolerate it. It's metabolized by the gut and the liver. There are many patients that get diarrhea from it or get some muscle weakness from it. So it can be problematic for folks and they're not able to try it. I've also noticed that it does help manage like an A1C, which is the average of your blood sugar over a few months, but it doesn't necessarily help with weight loss. So that's why it's kind of sister medications, right? The Ozempics, the Wegovy, some of those medications, that's why some of those have stepped into the picture, because they seem to be a little bit more helpful with weight loss. The problem is both the medications are Band-Aids. If we can get the gut to work correctly, get the liver to work correctly, then a lot of times we can bring insulin down gradually on its own. But that's a lot of hard work, and sometimes people are past that point of having the motivation and the persistence to do that amount of hard work to bring insulin levels down. So that's when these medications become more effective or become better options.
Awesome. And do you have advice for women on how to set boundaries to prevent the Superwoman circle?
Ooh.
The Superwoman syndrome? Sorry,
Superwoman,
plug.
yeah, no worries. All right, how to set boundaries. Who's having trouble with boundaries? You want to like raise your hand, and I'm curious if you could comment on what that trouble looks like. Is that trouble with, for example, is that issues at home? Is that issues at work? Is that simply that you can't, do your self-care? Look at all the waves coming up, guys. There are a lot of these. So yeah, so maybe if you can type in comments like, where is the boundary issue? Is it that the family is demanding a lot, or work is demanding a lot, or both are demanding a lot, and you don't know how to structure it? Here is my general rule. First of all, the first rule is to actually say, put your self-care and put your needs first. So the first thing you need, and I think I thought I had one sitting around here, is a calendar, right? So grab a calendar, and within that calendar chart out, when is your time for you? That's the first thing to do. We usually flip it, right? We usually do the opposite. We'll put all the work in and then be like, wait, where can I do a massage or acupuncture or get outside or have fun with my friends or things like that? Let's flip it. Get that calendar out, and you should have at least 2 to 3 hours a week in there for you. And then you should have at least 20 minutes a day in there for you. So go ahead and pencil it in. The minute it's penciled in, nobody can take it away because it's on paper, right? And once it's on paper, there's nothing you can do about it. So put it on paper, get it in there, and then schedule something. So that's the first way, because remember, the more self-care you do, the better you're going to be able to caretake and care everybody else, whether it's in a work environment or whether it's in a family or a home environment. When we don't do that work, and trust me, I have been there and done this, when we don't do that work, we're irritable, our energy's not so great, right? Just come from LA, so didn't do as much self-care, been on and off a plane, so things can irritate me more easily. Or for example, my leg, which many of you know I've been working on and trying to loosen up and trying to get back to a normal walk after the Achilles injury. The legs were super, super tight, like really balled up and knotted up. Again, I didn't do the work, right, over the weekend of keeping this thing nice and loose, and paid off. Same for us. If we're not doing the work and putting ourselves first, then we know we're going to have an issue long term, with other things. So that's the first rule. That was a really long-winded way of telling you to take care of yourself. So put it in the calendar. Secondly, once it's in the calendar, then start to schedule everything else out and have a clear stop point. Where does your evening end? Where does your day begin? Where is this kind of boundary going to set in? And then don't go beyond that. What you can do in a given day or in a given weekend is what you can do. And I think the third is to make sure there's not only self-care, but schedule your joy. What brings you joy? Is it spending time with your partner, with your family? Is it getting outside? But put that in there too. And those are the boundaries that are going to force you to stay accountable to yourself. Again, this is what we're doing in the Superwoman Circle. We're literally building these schedules with the women in the community and trying to help teach them how to create things like a life wheel, or to understand where they are emotionally. Where are you on the emotional scale? Or what do you need to do to move upwards in how you are thinking and taking care of yourself? Because here's what usually unravels, right? You don't take care of yourself, you start to go into a darker or more negative place. Then literally your dominant emotions are things like anger or irritability or fear or worry, rather than happiness or contentment or peace or those type of things. That in turn attracts more stress into your life. That stress drives cortisol. I saw a question about cortisol. That drives the cortisol, which then drives your blood sugar, which then drives insulin, which puts you in an inflammatory state, and boom, before you know it, and you do this over and over again, before you know it, you're dealing with a disease, right? So that's what we're trying to stop and make sure it's not evolving that way. And it's not that we're just trying to prevent disease. We also want you to be you, fully in your own power. I really get troubled and worried about the fact that the family is falling apart, right? That relationships fall apart, the relationship between a husband and a wife, or two partners, or a child. A lot of these relationships are fraying. Mental health is fraying. And a lot of this is because people are not doing the work to take care of themselves and to present themselves in the strongest light as they're in these sort of situations, whether it's a work family, home family, that type of thing. So really taking care of you is a responsibility. It should be a priority. It shouldn't be like, maybe I'll get to it, maybe I won't, because at the end of the day, if you don't do it, everybody else around you suffers. Okay, I think we can take one more and then we probably need to jump off. Sorry, guys.
And our final question is about cortisol.
Oh, good one.
What are ways to reduce cortisol?
Okay, cortisol, remember, is the stress hormone. We produce cortisol when we are fatigued or tired or stressed. A little bit is good. It gets us going, gets us out of bed, makes us do the things we're supposed to do. But if it's too high for too long, we're agitated, we have anxiety, you might have extra heart palpitations, those type of things. If it's too high for too long, it then crashes. And that crash in turn is chronic fatigue, having trouble sleeping, getting depressed, all those different things. So what can you do to balance cortisol? We love the adaptogens. So these are things like ashwagandha, holy basil. You know, some of these herbs really help to balance out cortisol levels and keep them much more even. We know that eating protein, eating every 4 hours a day is also helpful. That in turn helps to balance blood sugar and keep us more even and more stable as we're kind of navigating life stressors. So those are some of the things we can do, you know, right out of the gate to help. The B vitamins make a difference, and then committing to a full night's sleep is a game changer when it comes to cortisol and stress management. So going to bed at the same time roughly every night, waking up at the same time, these are things that are so important for sure. All right, I think we have to stop because we're about to go into the Superwoman Circle. We'll see some of you there as we talk about PCOS, fertility, and insulin resistance. If you haven't joined the circle, click on the link. You still have time to do so, and you'll have access to all my webinars and all the talks that I do as well. I see a question about breakfast ideas to lower glucose levels. I will actually do a video for you on that. How's that? And we'll post that. But here's a quick one. Eggs, excellent to lower glucose. 7 grams of protein in a single egg. Have 2 and have it with a little bit of healthy fat. Or what I do is every morning is a protein smoothie where we do at least 20 grams of protein, and that helps to lower blood sugar as well. All right, hope that's helpful. Thank you guys. We will try to be on time next time. How's that? But we will see you next Tuesday live, or I'll see you guys in the Superwoman Circle coming up in just a few minutes. Take care.